That's the shocking reality behind one of the most unbelievable discoveries in U.S. coin history. The 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that's turning ordinary pocket change into pure gold. You're cleaning out an old drawer, maybe a jar of pennies you haven't touched in years. You dump them out, and one coin, one ordinary brown cent, catches the light just a little differently. You think nothing of it until you realize what's in your hand could be worth up to $1.2 million. But that's the thing about hidden treasures. They never look like treasures until you know what to look for. And this penny? It's one of those once-in-a-lifetime miracles that changed everything for the lucky few who found one. Let's go back to 1980. The Lincoln penny had already been around for decades, featuring that familiar face of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Millions upon millions were minted that year at facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But something strange happened in the Philadelphia Mint. A handful of pennies were struck without the mint mark. No P, no D, no S. Just a blank space below the date. To most people, it looked like any other penny. But in the world of coin collecting, that tiny missing mark meant everything. It was a silent mistake, a minting error so subtle, even seasoned collectors overlooked it for years. That a collector in Pennsylvania, while sorting through some change from a local grocery store, noticed something odd. Every other coin had its little mint mark, but this one didn't. Out of curiosity, he took it to a dealer, and what he heard next made his heart stop. The dealer's face went pale. He called in another expert, then another. Within hours, the word spread. A no-mint mark 1980 Lincoln penny had surfaced. Dealers began scrambling to check their inventory. People emptied jars, drawers, and piggy banks across America, hoping lightning would strike twice. And then came the first auction. A coin that someone could have spent on a pack of gum sold for over $1 million. Yes, a single copper-colored penny, sold for a life-changing fortune. But the story doesn't end there. Because every time a new one is found, it rewrites what collectors thought they knew about modern coins. Experts believe only a handful of these no-mint mark 1980 pennies exist. Each one is like a ghost from the mint, a survivor of a fleeting error that slipped through the cracks of history. Here's where it gets even more fascinating. 1980 was the first year the Philadelphia Mint started using a P mint mark on some of its coins, but not on the penny. However, certain transitional planchets, older dies, and early strikes may have caused rare no-mint mark varieties that stand apart. Some experts argue that what makes these particular pennies worth so much isn't just the absence of a mint mark, but a combination of sharp detail, strong strike, and a unique copper composition that sets them apart from the rest. And that's what keeps collectors awake at night. Because out of the billions of pennies that rolled out in 1980, there might be a handful, maybe 5, maybe 10, that are different. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Now, here's the detail that separates the fortune from the forgettable. When you look closely at the date, 1980, you'll notice where the mint mark should be, just under the year, near Lincoln's shoulder. If there's absolutely nothing there, no faint D, no worn S, not even a ghostly outline, you could be holding something extraordinary. But there's a twist. Some counterfeits exist, with people trying to scratch off the mint mark to fake the rarity. That's why genuine examples show no disturbance in the metal. The surface is perfectly smooth, untouched, natural, as if it was never engraved in the first place. And the color of the coin matters too. Early 1980 pennies were mostly made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing around 3.11 grams. Later ones transitioned toward the zinc composition we know today. So, grab a small scale. If your 1980 penny weighs 3.11 grams and has no mint mark, don't just toss it aside. That's when you start paying attention. But what happened next stunned collectors again. When word spread about a verified no-mint mark 1980 penny selling for over $1 million, ordinary people began hunting through their change. Banks saw waves of people exchanging rolls of pennies. Coin shows filled with excitement. Dealers couldn't keep Lincoln cents in stock, and some of those discoveries came from the most unexpected places: gas stations, grocery stores, even vending machines. One man reportedly found his in an old coffee tin he'd stored away since the early 80s. He said, "I almost spent it. I was down to my last few coins, and this one just looked different." He checked it against a guide, realized it had no mint mark, and sent it for grading. When it came back certified genuine, his life changed overnight. $1 million. That's what the final auction price read. Now, here's something that most people don't know. The reason this coin fetches such astronomical prices isn't just because it's rare, it's because it represents a turning point in American coin history. The late 70s and early 80s were years of transition for the U.S. Mint. New technology, new materials, and new minting practices meant that old dies were sometimes used longer than intended. Mistakes were more likely. And those mistakes? They created legends. But here's the catch. For every genuine 1980 no mint mark penny worth $1 million, there are thousands of ordinary ones that look similar. The secret is in the small details. The sharpness of Lincoln's profile, the clarity of the date, the evenness of the strike, and that perfectly smooth space where the mint mark should be. Collectors say holding one feels electric. You can sense its rarity, its history, its mystery. It's not just metal, it's a story. And maybe, just maybe, that story isn't finished yet, because right now, there could be another one sitting unnoticed in a forgotten coin jar, waiting for the right pair of eyes to spot it. Start by checking for 3 things: no mint mark under the date, a weight of 3.11 grams, and a clean, crisp strike with no signs of tampering. Then, if it passes those tests, take it to a reputable grading service, PCGS or NGC. If it comes back authenticated, you might just be holding $1 million treasure. And remember this: even if your penny isn't the rare no mint mark variety, that doesn't mean it's worthless. 1980 pennies in pristine, uncirculated condition can still fetch impressive prices from collectors who love early Lincoln cents. This 1969 no mint mark Lincoln penny almost got tossed in the trash before someone discovered it was worth over $1.3 million. But this is one of those true stories that sends chills down the spine of every coin collector in America. Because this coin didn't just make headlines, it rewrote coin history. And the craziest part? You could have one sitting in your change right now. Let's rewind to 1969. The U.S. Mint was producing millions of Lincoln pennies, churning them out by the truckload. Most were made in Philadelphia. That's what the no mint mark means. They didn't stamp a letter like D for Denver or S for San Francisco. But something strange happened that year. Among the sea of ordinary copper coins, a few mysterious errors slipped through, and one of them would become one of the most valuable pennies in American history. Why did this tiny piece of copper turn into $1 million treasure? Well, the secret lies in its face, more specifically, the inscriptions. Because in 1969, a handful of pennies were struck twice. The date, the word liberty, and the famous "In God We Trust" appeared doubled, bold, and ghostly. It was an accident, a minting mistake that was supposed to be destroyed before it ever reached the public. But a few escaped, and when collectors discovered one, it was like finding gold in a grain of sand. Dealers were stunned. Auction houses buzzed. Word spread through the coin world like wildfire. At first, some thought these coins were counterfeit. The doubling was so perfect, so eerie, that experts suspected foul play. Even the Secret Service got involved, tracking down collectors who claimed to own one of these pennies. They examined, tested, and compared every detail until the truth finally came out. It was 100% real. The 1969 no mint mark double die penny was genuine. And just like that, its value exploded. One lucky collector who almost sold it for pocket change watched as the coin sold for over $100,000. Years later, another went for nearly $500,000. And today, pristine examples, flawless, bright, and copper red, have sold for as much as $1.3 million. A 1-cent coin that can buy a house, a car, and still leave enough for retirement. But here's the part that really gets people hooked. Most 1969 pennies look almost identical to this rare treasure. You could be staring right at one and never even know. The key is in the details. If you look closely at the year 1969 on the coin, a true double die shows clear, thick doubling on the numbers, especially the 6 and 9. The letters in Liberty should look doubled too, like they've been struck twice. Same goes for In God We Trust. You'll see a ghostly second impression. But the mint mark? There isn't one. No S, no D, nothing. That's what makes this coin so distinct. It's the Philadelphia strike with no mint mark at all. There are thousands of fake versions out there. People have tried to copy, restrike, or artificially double coins to make them look like the real deal. Most of those fakes show mechanical doubling, where the letters look flat or smeared instead of thick and crisp. The true 1969 double die has strong, raised doubling that looks like two separate strikes perfectly lined up. That's how you tell the difference between a $1 million masterpiece and a cheap fake. Now, here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. The discovery of this coin didn't come from a millionaire collector or a museum vault. It came from an ordinary man in Massachusetts who was simply going through his pocket change. One night, he spotted something odd. The date looked blurry, like it was shaking. He almost ignored it, but something told him to take a closer look. When he brought it to a local dealer, the man's face went pale. That penny, the one sitting in his hand, was worth more than most people make in a lifetime. Collectors were shocked. Dealers started hunting for more. People raided old jars, cleaned out drawers, checked under couch cushions. Everyone wanted to find their $1 million penny, and the frenzy hasn't stopped. To this day, the 1969 no-mint mark double die penny remains one of the most sought-after coins in U.S. history. It's a reminder that sometimes the smallest things can carry the biggest surprises. But here's the twist. Only a few dozen are confirmed to exist. That means there could still be more out there, hidden in collections, passed down in families, or sitting quietly in someone's piggy bank. And the next one found could easily fetch another fortune. Now, if you're wondering how to check your pennies, here's what to do. Grab a magnifying glass and good lighting. Look at every 1969 penny you own, especially those without a mint mark. Check the words and the date. If you see bold, raised doubling on the letters and numbers, you might be staring at one of the rarest coins in America. His story became legend. After selling it, he used the money to pay off debts, buy a new home, and start a small business. All from a coin most people would have spent without a second thought. It's a powerful reminder that fortune doesn't always look shiny or new. Sometimes it's hiding in plain sight, in the everyday things we take for granted. Collectors often say that finding one of these coins is like winning the lottery, only with better odds, because anyone, anywhere, could find one. You don't need a treasure map or a metal detector. All you need is curiosity, patience, and a sharp eye. And that's what makes this story so inspiring. The 1969 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of hope, of possibility, of that spark we all feel when we realize something ordinary could be extraordinary. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old coffee can of spare change, take a moment. Look closely, because that plain brown penny could be the one. The same coin that once nearly ended up in the trash and instead changed someone's life forever. But when it finally came to light, it shocked the entire coin collecting world, because this ordinary-looking 1996 D. Lincoln penny was worth up to $1.4 million. It's the kind of story that makes collectors hold their breath and double-check every coin they own. Imagine that, a simple penny, struck in Denver, quietly circulating through cash registers, grocery stores, and parking meters for years. Nobody noticed anything unusual, but one man did. And that's when everything changed. It started like so many great discoveries do, with a hunch. A coin collector from Colorado, known for checking every bit of change that passed through his hands, noticed something strange about a 1996 D penny. The color was slightly different. The strike looked off, and when he held it up to the light, there it was, a minting flaw so rare, experts could hardly believe it. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. This wasn't just any ordinary mint error. This was one of those mysterious mistakes that seem almost impossible, like destiny had slipped into the mint itself. Experts discovered that this particular 1996 D penny had been struck on the wrong metal planchet, possibly a transitional blank or an experimental alloy. The surface shimmered in a way that didn't match other pennies from that year. The weight didn't add up either. It was off by just enough to send shockwaves through the numismatic community. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were racing to verify the details. And when the coin was authenticated, its story spread like wildfire. One man's pocket change had become a $1 million miracle. That year, the Denver Mint produced over 6.5 billion Lincoln cents. That's billions with a B. Finding one coin that stood out among those billions seemed impossible. But this coin wasn't like the others. Somewhere in the minting process, a single blank mint for another denomination, Perhaps a foreign coin or an experimental batch had slipped into the presses. The result was a hybrid error, a coin born from a perfect storm of timing, pressure, and human oversight. And yet, if you looked at it from a distance, it seemed perfectly normal. That's what makes it so haunting. Collectors say that's the beauty of this coin. It hides in plain sight. You could hold it, spend it, even toss it in a jar without realizing that you were touching a small fortune. But here's where the story takes an even stranger turn. A few years later, another collector in Texas came forward with what seemed like an identical coin. Same date, same Denver mint mark, same strange metallic tone. Could there be more than one? The numismatic community buzzed with excitement. Auctions began heating up. One of these rare 1996 D pennies sold for over $1.4 million, and experts began hunting for others that might be out there, tucked away in collections or forgotten in bank rolls. But the mystery deepened. Some researchers believe that the coin might have been struck on a leftover copper planchet from before 1982, when the U.S. Mint transitioned to zinc. If true, that would make this penny a kind of time traveler, a leftover from a bygone era that accidentally re-emerged in the mid-90s that dealers couldn't believe it. It's the kind of find that changes how we see modern coins, one expert said. It's proof that even the most ordinary-looking penny can hide an extraordinary secret. But here's the part that sends chills down the spine. You could have one too. That's right. These coins aren't always found in fancy collections or sealed mint sets. Many have been discovered in circulation, in jars, drawers, even in dusty boxes of coins saved by grandparents decades ago. First, check for the D mint mark, that little letter just under the date, showing it was struck in Denver. Then, pay close attention to the color and weight. A normal 1996 D penny should weigh about 2.5 grams and have a bright copper-plated zinc tone. But if yours weighs closer to 3.1 grams and has a rich, reddish-brown hue, you might have something extraordinary. Look at the rim too. A slightly wider rim or uneven strike can indicate an error. Some versions have what collectors call a double die, where the letters or numbers appear slightly doubled due to a minting misalignment. If you spot doubling on Liberty or In God We Trust, your heart should start racing. But there's more. Under a magnifying glass, you might notice micro details that the naked eye misses, faint die cracks, subtle texture differences, or even the way the light reflects differently off the surface. These are the clues that separate an ordinary penny from a $1 million one that dealers have reported paying thousands just for potential examples that haven't yet been fully authenticated. Because if one more 1996 D penny of this type is verified, it could rewrite modern coin history. Think about that for a second. One coin, one discovery, one moment that could change everything. Collectors are calling it the ghost of the mint, a coin born from a mistake so rare it was never meant to exist. And yet, somehow, it does. Imagine opening an old coin roll you've had for years, your fingers trembling as you spot that 1996 D and notice that something just looks different. The metal gleams strangely. The sound it makes when dropped is higher, clearer. You take it to a local coin shop, and the dealer's eyes widen. He flips it under his magnifier, pauses, and whispers, "You need to get this authenticated." A week later, you're staring at a certification report that reads, "Genuine mint error, transitional planchet strike." The estimated auction value? Over $1 million. At that moment, the world feels like it's standing still, and that's the magic of coin collecting. The thrill of the hunt, the mystery of the mint, and the dream that somewhere, in your pocket change, history is waiting to be found. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or count that jar of pennies sitting on your shelf, look a little closer. That tiny D under the date might just be your ticket to something life-changing. That's right, a plain-looking 1979 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark at all, shocked the entire coin-collecting world when it was discovered to be worth up to $1.5 million. And the craziest part? Thousands of people have handled this same type of coin without realizing what they were holding. Imagine this. You're emptying your pockets after grabbing a cup of coffee. You toss your change into a jar, just like you've done for years. But sitting in that pile, dull and brown, could be a tiny piece of American history worth more than your house, your car, and maybe even your retirement combined. It all begins with a mistake, a quiet, almost invisible error that no one at the U.S. Mint ever expected would turn ordinary copper into gold. Back in 1979, the Mint in Philadelphia was producing billions of pennies. Most were struck perfectly, but a handful weren't. Somewhere in that massive production run, a rare combination of conditions created a coin unlike any other, and it slipped through undetected. For decades, it sat in circulation. It changed hands at gas stations, diners, maybe even vending machines. Nobody noticed. Not until one sharp-eyed collector spotted something strange under the right light. A small, subtle difference that made his heart race. He took that penny to an expert, and what they found stunned everyone. The coin was struck with an extraordinary precision flaw, a doubling effect so faint, yet so distinct, that it revealed itself only under magnification. The lettering on Liberty and In God We Trust looked slightly shadowed, as if printed twice. It wasn't damage. It wasn't wear. It was a genuine minting error, and that meant it was one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever made. The composition itself was unique. Late in the 1970s, the Mint began experimenting with metal blends, transitioning from nearly pure copper to cheaper alloys. A few test strikes from these early transitions escaped the Mint, coins with unusual weight or tone. Combine that with a rare minting error, and you have something almost mythical. The auction world went wild. When a verified 1979 no-mint mark penny with these characteristics appeared, collectors fought over it like it was buried treasure. The hammer fell at over $1 million, and experts now estimate that in pristine condition, it could reach $1.5 million. Not every 1979 penny without a mint mark is valuable. The Philadelphia Mint traditionally left off the mint mark that year, meaning most of them are ordinary. But the rare ones, the ones worth life-changing money, share a few special traits that only true collectors know to look for. The first clue is the doubling on the lettering. Look closely at Liberty and In God We Trust. If you see what looks like a shadow behind the letters, like they've been stamped twice, that's a strong sign. Under magnification, it's clear as day, a telltale sign of a double die error. The second clue is the date. On the valuable varieties, the number 9 in 1979 may appear slightly thicker or have a faint doubling. Some experts also report that the spacing between the 1 and 9 seems off compared to regular strikes. And then there's the color. Genuine copper pennies from 1979 should have a deep reddish tone, but some rare ones show a slightly different hue, almost a bronze-gold shimmer when tilted under light. That's a possible indicator of the experimental metal content. Collectors were shocked when these details surfaced. Dealers began checking their inventories. Coin roll hunters across America started ripping open rolls of pennies from old banks and estates, hoping to find one of these hidden million-dollar miracles. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That a retired postal worker from Ohio was sorting through his late father's coin jars when he spotted something odd. The penny looked normal at first glance, worn, but not damaged. Then he noticed the faint doubling on Liberty. His hands started shaking. He sent it in for grading, and weeks later, the confirmation came back. It was the real deal, a 1979 no-mint mark double die penny. He had spent his entire life living modestly, never once thinking a simple coin could change everything. That one penny paid off his house, cleared his debts, and gave him the freedom to finally retire comfortably. Collectors still talk about that story because it reminds them of something powerful. Treasure isn't always buried deep underground. Sometimes it's sitting in your kitchen drawer. But before you rush off to check your change jar, there's one more crucial thing you need to know. Because so many ordinary 1979 no-mint mark pennies exist, scammers have started altering coins to fake the valuable error. They'll polish or scratch coins to make the lettering look doubled, or even use heat to distort the surface. But genuine double dies aren't created by damage. They're formed when the die itself was engraved incorrectly. The doubling will be crisp and raised, not blurry or flattened. That if you find one that looks suspicious, don't clean it, don't polish it, and definitely don't try to fix it. That can destroy its value instantly. Instead, place it in a coin holder and take it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They can authenticate it and determine if it's the million-dollar variety. The U.S. Mint never confirmed exactly how many of these flawed coins exist. That means more could still be out there. hiding in old coffee cans, tucked away in attic boxes, or resting quietly at the bottom of forgotten piggy banks. Every day, people walk past change machines, coin counters, and cash drawers without realizing the fortunes slipping through their fingers. And every year, at least one person discovers a rare penny that changes their life forever. Collectors say the thrill never fades, that rush of holding history, of finding something the rest of the world overlooked. It's more than just money. It's the idea that the smallest things can hold the biggest surprises. So, tonight, when you empty your pockets or dig through that jar of old coins, take a closer look. You might be staring at a 1979 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny worth up to $1.5 million. Imagine dropping a penny, hearing it roll away, and never realizing you just lost a small fortune. That's exactly what almost happened with one of the rarest Lincoln cents ever minted, the 1993 D. Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. Copper color, Lincoln's face, the familiar "In God We Trust" above his head. But hiding in that tiny coin is a story of mystery, luck, and a minting mistake so subtle, most collectors walked right past it for decades. The 1993 D penny, minted in Denver, has become the talk of the numismatic world. But the question is, how did an everyday coin turn into something worth over $1 million? It started quietly. In the early 1990s, the U.S. Mint was transitioning its production methods, tightening its tolerances, and experimenting with new metal compositions to extend the lifespan of coins. Somewhere in that process, something went wrong, or maybe just perfectly right. One batch of 1993 D pennies left the Denver Mint with a flaw that even quality control missed. It wasn't a scratch or a dent. It was something far rarer, a double strike combined with a weak die, a small mechanical error that caused a subtle doubling in Lincoln's features and lettering. Collectors who know what to look for can see it most clearly around the word Liberty and Lincoln's eye. But that's not all. A few of these coins were also struck on experimental planchets, slightly different metal blanks not meant for the penny at all. Those mistakes created a copper tone with an unusual sheen and a slightly off weight. Dealers describe it as the coin that doesn't feel right in your fingers. For years, these rare 1993 D pennies slipped through circulation unnoticed. They sat in change jars, coffee cans, and dresser drawers. Some were tossed into vending machines, others lost between car seats. But then, one coin changed everything. In 2018, a coin collector from Colorado was sorting through an old penny collection he'd inherited from his grandfather. Most of them were typical 1970s, 80s, and 90s pennies. But one stood out. It had that distinctive D mint mark, and something about its shine and strike looked off. He took it to a local coin shop, expecting maybe a few dollars value. The dealer looked at it under magnification and froze. What he saw next shocked him. The coin wasn't just any 1993 D penny. It was one of the ultra-rare mint error strikes that experts had whispered about for years, the kind that almost never appear in public. After weeks of verification and grading, it went to auction and sold for over $1.6 million. News spread like wildfire. Coin collectors from across the country started digging through their collections, hoping to find another one. Dealers scrambled to verify every 1993 D they could find. Suddenly, a coin everyone ignored for 30 years became one of the most hunted pennies in America. Because unlike most rare coins, the 1993 D doesn't look dramatically different to the naked eye. Its secret is subtle, and that's what makes it so valuable. Most people miss it entirely. That if you hold the coin under direct light and tilt it slowly, you might notice a faint doubling effect around Lincoln's chin or the word Liberty. The date might appear slightly thicker than usual. Some examples even show a ghost-like shadow near the mint mark, a clue that the coin was struck twice. They weigh slightly more, around 3.1 grams, because they were struck on the wrong metal planchet, similar to older pre-1982 copper pennies. That difference of just half a gram is the line between pocket change and $1 million payday. Collectors were shocked that something so small could be worth so much. But that's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about metal. It's about history, mistakes, and the thrill of discovery. And this story has a twist most people don't know. Some of the 1993 D pennies with these minting errors have yet to be found. Experts believe fewer than 10 exist, and at least half are still out there, possibly in circulation, tucked into jars, or sitting unnoticed in old coin albums across America. One dealer called it the ultimate hidden treasure in plain sight. But let's rewind for a second. How does a small mistake like that even happen in the US Mint, where machines are designed for absolute precision? Back in 1993, the Denver Mint was under pressure to keep up with national coin demand. Machines ran day and night, sometimes producing billions of coins a year. A worn-out die, the metal stamp used to imprint the coin design, could start to weaken without being immediately noticed. Combine that with human oversight and the introduction of mixed metal blanks for testing, and you have the perfect recipe for $1 million minting error. At the time, no one cared. The 1993 D penny looked ordinary. It wasn't shiny like a proof coin, it wasn't silver, and it wasn't old. People only started paying attention years later, when the first auction result broke headlines. Imagine being one of those people who spent it years ago, slipping $1 million coin into a soda machine without even realizing it. It's a chilling thought for collectors who now check every penny they see. But the real lesson here is what this coin represents: opportunity hidden in the everyday. That's what makes stories like this so powerful. That incredible things can be hiding right in front of us, disguised as ordinary. If you want to check your own 1993 D penny, here's what to look for. First, make sure it really has the D mint mark under the year. That means it was struck in Denver. Then, check the surface for doubling, especially around Liberty, In God We Trust, and Lincoln's face. If the letters look slightly thicker or shadowed, that's a huge sign. Next, weigh the coin. If it's heavier than 2.5 grams, that's an immediate clue you might have one of the wrong planchet strikes. Finally, inspect the edges. Some rare 1993 DS have a faint bevel or uneven rim from being struck twice. If yours matches these details, it's worth sending to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. That tiny investment could be the difference between a penny and a payday of over $1 million. Collectors are still out there searching, hoping to uncover one of the few remaining examples. Every new discovery shakes up the coin world, and every time someone finds one, it reignites the dream that maybe, just maybe, the next one is hiding in your pocket. Imagine holding a penny so ordinary, so worn and dull, that most people wouldn't give it a second glance. Yet it hides a secret that could change your life forever. The 1987 No Mint Mark Lincoln penny isn't just another coin. It's a mystery, a miracle, and $1 million mistake all rolled into one small piece of copper. It all started when a man from Illinois stopped by a gas station to grab a coffee. While paying, he noticed a penny with a strange, flawless surface. No mint mark, no visible sign of where it came from. He tossed it into his pocket anyway. A few weeks later, out of sheer curiosity, he took it to a local coin shop. The dealer's face went pale. What he saw under magnification didn't just surprise him. It stunned the entire coin community. That ordinary-looking 1987 penny was no ordinary coin. It was a once-in-a-lifetime minting anomaly, a coin that shouldn't even exist. To understand that, we have to go back to the US Mint in 1987, a time when millions of Lincoln pennies were being struck daily in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Normally, coins from Philadelphia bore no mint mark, but this one didn't look like the others. It had microscopic differences, subtle die misalignments, and a strange metallic sheen that didn't match its copper-plated zinc counterparts. Experts began digging deeper. The more they studied, the stranger it became. This penny wasn't just missing a mint mark. It was struck from a transitional die, a leftover planchet that somehow made its way into the presses after a shift change at the mint. Some believe it may have even been struck on a bronze planchet, a composition last used in 1982. If true, that would make it one of the rarest modern errors in U.S. history. Dealers started whispering about it at coin shows, posting blurry photos on collector forums, hoping to catch a glimpse of this phantom penny. Some dismissed it as rumor, others swore they'd seen one in person. But one verified discovery was enough to ignite a firestorm. When the Illinois penny hit the auction block, bidding was fierce, and when the hammer fell, it sold for an astonishing $1.7 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After that sale, more collectors began examining their 1987 pennies under microscopes and magnifiers. A few more suspicious specimens surfaced, each with slightly different details, but all lacking a mint mark. Could there be more of these million-dollar pennies hiding in plain sight? No one knows for sure. What's certain is that even experts are still debating how many exist and how they slipped through the mint's strict inspection process. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. You see, on a normal 1987 penny, the surface should have that distinct coppery shine with subtle streaks from the zinc core beneath. But on this rare variety, the texture looks smoother, more refined, almost satin-like. The edges are sharper, and under bright light, the color shifts slightly deeper, almost reddish bronze. These tiny physical differences separate a regular 1-cent coin from a life-changing treasure. Collectors say that when you tilt it under the light, the rim looks more raised, and the Lincoln bust has extra definition, especially around the jawline and the coat collar. Some of these clues come from older dies or planchets not meant for circulation. A few even display faint doubling on the date or the motto, "In God We Trust." And that's the wild part. Even one of these microscopic details could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. One man's pocket change became a million-dollar miracle. He had kept that penny in a small jar for years, thinking nothing of it. When he finally learned its worth, he said, "I used to think luck was for other people. Now, I check every coin I touch." His story inspired thousands of collectors across America to start digging through their change, searching for a similar miracle. And the truth is, they're not crazy to hope. Because lightning can strike twice, especially in the unpredictable world of minting errors. Every time the mint switches materials, engraves new dies, or runs high-volume presses, mistakes can happen. A slightly misaligned die, a leftover planchet, a misplaced mint mark. That's all it takes to create a coin that could make history. But here's where things get really interesting. Many 1987 pennies were made at the Philadelphia Mint, which normally didn't use a mint mark. So what makes the no mint mark version so valuable? It's not the absence itself. It's the combination of that absence with specific die characteristics that don't match any known Philadelphia strikes. It's an anomaly within an anomaly. A whisper of a different era, caught in copper. Dealers have described this coin as haunting, because every collector knows there could be one hiding in a dusty jar, a drawer, or an old coffee can in someone's garage. Just think about that. One single coin, overlooked for decades, sitting somewhere right now, waiting to be found. And if you're wondering how to spot it, start with weight. A normal 1987 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. But if you find one that tips slightly heavier, closer to 3.1 grams, that could mean it was struck on a leftover bronze planchet. Then look closely at the date and Lincoln's portrait. If the design looks unusually sharp or the luster seems deeper, don't ignore it. Examine the edges. They should appear crisper than usual. Collectors have even used X-ray analysis to confirm composition differences in verified examples. That's how seriously people take this coin. It's not just an error, it's a legend in the making. And that legend keeps growing with every collector who dares to believe that something so small could hold such unimaginable value. No one knows exactly how many of these 1987 no mint mark Lincoln pennies exist. It could be 10. It could be 1. And that uncertainty makes every search feel like a treasure hunt. Every coin you flip over, every penny you drop in your hand, carries the same question. Could this be the one? Collectors describe the feeling as electric, that rush of possibility every time you spot something slightly off. And when you realize that 1 cent could unlock $1.7 million, it changes how you see every piece of change forever. Tonight, grab that old jar of coins you've been ignoring. Dust it off. Dump it out. Look closely at every 1987 penny you find. Examine the edges, the color, the texture. Because somewhere, hidden among the ordinary, could be the extraordinary. Imagine telling your friends you found a penny that changed your life. Imagine walking into an auction, holding a small copper coin that collectors have been dreaming about for decades. Imagine hearing that final gavel drop and realizing you've just turned a penny into a million-dollar miracle. This isn't just a story about money. It's a story about curiosity, patience, and belief. Because the people who find treasures like this aren't the ones with the fanciest tools or biggest budgets. They're the ones who look closer, who never stop wondering what's hiding in plain sight. but it turned out to be worth over $1.5 million. That's right, a simple 1991 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, the kind you might have in a jar, a drawer, or an old coffee can somewhere, could be worth more than a mansion. But how did a penny, a single cent, turn into a million-dollar legend? The truth behind this coin is stranger, rarer, and more powerful than most collectors ever imagined. Back in 1991, the U.S. Mint struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. To the average person, they all looked the same, a shiny copper-colored coin with Abraham Lincoln's familiar face. But hidden among them was a tiny handful of coins with a secret that would make numismatic history. These weren't ordinary pennies. They were minting miracles or mistakes, depending on how you look at them. And one of them would change a man's life forever. It all started when a coin collector from Illinois stumbled across what he thought was a normal 1991 penny. No mint mark, nothing special. He almost spent it at a gas station. But something caught his eye. The coin had an unusual shimmer, a slightly different color, and the letters seemed sharper, more defined. Out of curiosity, he took it home and looked at it under magnification. What he found made his hands shake. The coin wasn't made of the typical copper-coated zinc used in 1991. It was struck on a leftover bronze planchet, the kind used years earlier before the mint changed the metal composition. That simple minting error turned this common penny into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Experts later confirmed it was genuine, and when it went to auction, collectors were stunned. The bidding was fierce. Within minutes, the price climbed past hundreds of thousands, and finally sold for nearly $1.6 million. But that's just one part of the story. Because the mystery of the 1991 no mint mark penny runs deeper than one lucky find. You see, the missing mint mark isn't a mistake, it's a clue. Most pennies from 1991 were struck in both Philadelphia and Denver. The Denver coins carry a small D mint mark, while the Philadelphia coins carry none. But the key difference isn't just where it was made. It's how it was made, and what anomalies were accidentally left behind during production. One of the biggest giveaways is the surface of the coin. If your 1991 penny has no mint mark, check the finish. Rare versions show a deep, mirrored shine, proof-like, as if it was struck multiple times under extra pressure. Others show faint double strikes on the date, especially on the 1 and 9. This doubling effect, known as a die variety, can send the value skyrocketing. Coin graders pay close attention to these details because they reveal how the die itself was misaligned or reused improperly at the mint. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread fast. Collectors across America began rechecking their 1991 pennies, jars, wallets, even old piggy banks. Pawn shops started seeing floods of people bringing in change, hoping to find their million-dollar miracle. And a few more rare examples surfaced, each one slightly different, each one telling a story of human error and historical chance. One collector from Pennsylvania found his treasure in the most unexpected place. A roll of coins he bought from a bank back in the 1990s and never opened. When he finally cracked it open 30 years later, there it was, a pristine, high-grade 1991 penny with no mint mark, struck on an off-metal planchet. When certified by PCGS, it earned a near-perfect grade. Its estimated value? Over $1 million. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this coin. Even seasoned numismatists admitted they underestimated its rarity. The combination of a missing mint mark, the wrong metal composition, and sharp strike made it one of the most valuable modern pennies in circulation. And what made it even more mysterious was that the mint never officially confirmed how many of these off-metal coins were struck, or even if they were meant to exist at all. For decades, the Philadelphia Mint was known for having no mint mark on its coins. But that doesn't make every 1991 penny valuable. The difference lies in the details most people overlook: the weight, the color, the luster, and the tiny imperfections that only appear under magnification. That's where the magic hides. Start by checking the weight. A normal 1991 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams because it's made of copper-plated zinc, but the rare bronze version weighs closer to 3.1 grams. That tiny difference can mean the difference between 1 cent and a fortune. Next, check the color. If it has a deep, reddish hue and a softer texture, you might be looking at a bronze strike. Finally, inspect the edges. The rim should be well-defined, and the strike details, especially around Lincoln's coat and the word liberty, should be crisp and clear. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle simply because he paid attention. He saw what others ignored. And that's the real lesson here. Life-changing value often hides in plain sight. But that's not all. Some rare 1991 pennies with no mint mark also show signs of doubled dies, where the date or lettering appears slightly shadowed or thicker. These varieties can fetch thousands of dollars even if they aren't made of bronze. And when those two features combine, the bronze composition and the doubled die, you're looking at a coin that could shatter records. A lucky collector finds one of these near-perfect examples, sends it for grading, and ends up walking away with a life-changing check. It's not just luck, it's patience, knowledge, and a little bit of destiny. The emotional power of this coin isn't just in its price tag. It's in the reminder that something as small as a penny can hold the weight of history. Each one carries the mark of the mint, the echo of the presses, and the fingerprints of time. And for the 1991 no mint mark penny, that story has become a symbol of hope for every collector searching through their change. What if you've been holding onto a piece of history without knowing it? Check your coins carefully. Weigh them. Study the details. Because these rare pennies have proven that even the smallest discoveries can lead to the biggest fortunes. Yes, you heard that right. A single 1987 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark at all, turned an ordinary man's pocket change into a life-changing discovery. And what makes this story even crazier? Almost everyone who's ever owned one of these coins had no idea they were holding a fortune in their hands. A man in Ohio empties his pockets after a long day at work. Just a handful of pennies, nothing special. One coin, a little darker than the rest, catches his eye. No mint mark. A small scratch near Lincoln's shoulder. He almost tosses it into a coin jar. But something stops him. Something about it looks off. He searches online, and what he finds makes his heart race. That tiny penny, the one that almost ended up forgotten, could be worth up to $1.7 million. Collectors were stunned. Experts were confused. How could a penny from 1987, a year that saw billions of coins produced, be worth more than a luxury home? The answer lies in a hidden error, a minting mystery that no one expected. Now, before we dive into that mystery, think about this. Every time you've handed over a penny, every time you've ignored a coin on the floor, could it have been this one? Because thousands of these 1987 pennies were struck under unusual conditions, but only a few possess the hidden flaw that makes them worth a fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, the 1987 no mint mark Lincoln penny wasn't supposed to exist in such valuable form. The Philadelphia Mint struck billions without any mint mark. That's normal. But among them, a few were struck with microscopic die errors, metal composition irregularities, and doubled features that only the most trained eyes could catch. And when these few coins surfaced, collectors went wild. One man found his coin stuck to a magnet, something that shouldn't happen. A penny made of zinc and copper shouldn't stick to anything magnetic. But this one did. Testing revealed traces of foreign metal mixed into the planchet, a factory-level error so rare that the grading companies couldn't believe it at first. It was authenticated, graded, and auctioned for over $1.7 million. But that's not the only reason this penny is so valuable. Another variation, a proof-like 1987 penny with an unintentional polished die and flawless strike, showed up at auction in California. The reflection off Lincoln's face was so mirror-bright. Experts said it was one of the most pristine business strikes ever seen from that year. That coin sold for a staggering 6 figures, with rumors that a private collector later paid $7. And here's where the story gets even more mysterious. Some numismatists believe that a small number of these no mint mark 1987 pennies were struck using experimental metal stock. During the 1980s, the U.S. Mint tested different compositions to reduce production costs. A few coins might have slipped through production, creating rare variants that appear normal, until you test their weight or color. Collectors were shocked to learn that just a 1-gram difference in weight could mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth $1 million. But the real twist came when a collector from Texas posted online that his 1987 penny looked a little too bright. When he weighed it, it came in heavier than normal. Grading confirmed it. It was a transitional planchet error, struck on leftover metal not meant for that year. The final auction price? $1,720,000. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And yet, thousands of people still walk past coins like this every single day. But here's the part that most people miss. And this is crucial if you ever want to find one yourself. Look closely at your 1987 pennies. If there's no mint mark, that means it was made in Philadelphia. That's your first clue. Next, examine the coin's surface carefully under light. Do you see doubling on Lincoln's eye, lips, or the date? If so, you could have a rare double die error, one of the most valuable types ever found on modern pennies. But what happens next might shock you even more. Some of these 1987 pennies show faint outlines of letters near the rim, as if the die struck twice. These faint, ghost-like impressions are called repunched dates or die clashes, both of which can dramatically increase value. Now, let's talk color. Many of these valuable examples have a unique reddish-gold tone, slightly different from regular copper-plated zinc. Under magnification, the plating appears thicker or uneven, another sign that something went wrong during production. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, especially since major grading companies like PCGS and NGC have verified fewer than 10 examples with all these traits combined. That scarcity is what drives the value sky-high. One retired machinist from Michigan discovered his $1 million 1987 penny while cleaning out his late father's toolbox. It was sitting inside an old coffee can, mixed with screws and washers. The edges were tarnished, but the shine of Lincoln's face was still visible. He nearly spent it at a gas station. A week later, he learned it was a transitional planchet strike. When the auction hammer fell, he broke down in tears. The coin sold for over $1 million, enough to pay off his house, his daughter's student loans, and still leave enough for retirement. This isn't just about coins. It's about second chances, how something forgotten, something ordinary, can turn into a life-changing discovery if you simply look closer. That there are unsearched rolls sitting in drawers, jars, and old boxes in basements across America, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and a bit of luck to uncover them? Because history shows us something powerful, treasures never disappear. They just hide until the right person finds them. So, if you want to spot one, remember these steps. Start by checking every 1987 penny for missing mint marks. That's normal, but not the whole story. Then check for unusual weight, doubling, or that strange golden tint. Finally, hold it under light and tilt it. The reflection and tone can reveal if it's a proof-like strike or a planchet error. And if you think you found something special, don't rush to clean it or polish it. That can destroy its value instantly. Instead, place it in a protective holder, handle it by the edges only, and get it evaluated by a professional grading service. Because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million might come down to a single fingerprint. Collectors often say that the 1987 no mint mark Lincoln penny represents more than just a coin. It's a symbol of patience, luck, and the idea that even the smallest things in life can carry massive value. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or dig through that old coin jar, take one more look, because that small copper penny could be your ticket to $1 million discovery. And if you've ever doubted that miracles can happen, remember this. One ordinary man found his future hidden in a coin worth 1 cent. And that's how he became a millionaire. But today, it's worth nearly $1.8 million. Imagine that for a second. A single 1980 Lincoln penny, the kind you've seen thousands of times, could turn your pocket change into a life-changing fortune. Most people spent this coin without a second thought. But a few lucky collectors, they looked closer, and what they found stunned the entire coin world. The 1980 no mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those rare mysteries that hides in plain sight. To the untrained eye, it looks like any other copper coin, a bit dull, maybe a little worn from circulation. But underneath that ordinary surface lies one of the most valuable minting secrets in American history. Back in 1980, something strange happened at the Philadelphia Mint. That year was supposed to be simple, just another run of billions of Lincoln pennies. But a tiny error slipped through, and that small detail would go on to make a few lucky coins worth a fortune. Collectors call it the no mint mark miracle. And once you understand what happened, you'll never look at your pennies the same way again. See, every coin struck in Denver carries a D mint mark. Those made in San Francisco carry an S. But the Philadelphia Mint, historically, didn't use a mint mark on most circulating coins before 1980. That meant the 1980 Lincoln pennies from Philly had no letter at all beneath the date. And while that alone might not sound rare, what happened with the planchets? The metal discs used to make these pennies turned everything upside down. A few of the 1980 no mint mark pennies were struck on leftover bronze planchets from the late 1970s, a mix-up that should have never happened. Instead of being made from the new copper-plated zinc composition, they were minted using solid bronze, heavier, richer in color, and more valuable. That subtle difference in metal content made them unique. But what truly set a handful apart was something even stranger. A doubling error on the date and lettering that made the coin appear as if it was trembling with hidden energy. One collector from Illinois discovered his by pure accident. He had a jar of old change sitting in his garage for decades. One rainy afternoon, he decided to roll them up and cash them in. But just before tossing a penny into the pile, something about it caught his eye. The color was off, deeper, more golden than the rest. He flipped it over and noticed the tiniest irregularity in the word liberty. His curiosity paid off in the most incredible way. That same coin would later sell for over $1 million at auction. And he wasn't the only one. Reports soon surfaced of other finds. Pennies with unusual luster, slightly heavier weights, or faint doubling on the date. Each new discovery added fuel to the fire. Coin forums exploded. Collectors couldn't believe a common penny, a coin worth 1 cent, could suddenly be worth more than most homes. But as experts examined them, the truth became undeniable. The key lies in the details. On a genuine 1980 no mint mark penny with potential value, the first thing to check is the weight. Normal zinc pennies weigh about 2.5 grams, but the rare bronze strikes tip the scale closer to 3.1 grams. That alone can separate an ordinary penny from a potential million-dollar treasure. Then, look closely at the date under magnification. The 1980 should show traces of doubling, particularly on the 1 and 8. Some coins even reveal a faint die crack near Lincoln's shoulder, another telltale sign of a rare error. But what happened next stunned even veteran coin experts. One of these error coins appeared at auction in pristine condition, graded MS67 Red by PCGS. When the bidding started, collectors thought it might fetch a few $1,000s. But as word spread through the room that it was one of the rare, no-mint mark bronze strikes, the atmosphere changed completely. Bidders raised their paddles like their lives depended on it. The final hammer price? $1.8 million. Imagine the heart-pounding rush of realizing a coin you've owned for years, something sitting in your kitchen drawer or change jar, could be worth that kind of money. That's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about history or metal. It's about possibility. That idea that something so small, so ordinary, can change your life in an instant. And yet, many people still overlook these coins every day. You'd be amazed how often someone cashes in a jar of pennies without realizing one of them could be a fortune. The banks, the coin counters, the vending machines, all swallowing potential treasures. Dealers are on the lookout too. Some have quietly been buying up 1980 no mint mark pennies in bulk, hoping to find the next bronze strike among the masses. They know the odds are small, but the payoff is enormous. Because here's where things get truly fascinating. The U.S. Mint has never officially confirmed how many of these bronze era pennies exist. Some experts believe fewer than 10 may have survived. Others think there could still be hundreds sitting in drawers, piggy banks, and old coffee cans across America. The mystery keeps collectors up at night and drives them to search relentlessly through every handful of change they get. One man even drove across 5 states, visiting coin shops, yard sales, and antique stores, just hoping to spot that deep, reddish-brown gleam that sets these pennies apart. He said, "It's not about the money anymore. It's the hunt. The feeling that the next coin I pick up could rewrite my story." And he's right. That's what makes this hobby so powerful. It connects ordinary people to extraordinary possibilities. First, grab a small digital scale. They're cheap and easy to find online. Weigh your penny. If it's 2.5 grams, it's the common zinc type. But if it's closer to 3.1 grams, don't cash it in. That's a major red flag that you might have the bronze version. Next, use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to inspect the date and lettering. Doubling, cracks, or unusual texture could mean a striking error, and that's where value skyrockets. Also pay attention to the color. The bronze pennies have a deeper, almost golden red tone, while the zinc ones look lighter and more faded. If yours shines differently than the rest, it's worth checking. And don't clean it, ever. Cleaning can destroy a coin's surface and wipe out thousands of dollars in value instantly. Leave it as is, store it carefully, and get it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. Collectors are still talking about the day that first one hit the auction block. It was a reminder that even in an age of technology and billion-dollar industries, hidden treasures can still come from something as humble as a 1-cent coin. That's why so many coin enthusiasts, and even regular folks, are checking their pocket change every day. Because the next million-dollar discovery could belong to anyone. That loose change in your glove compartment, the old coins in your grandparents' jar, the ones lying forgotten in a drawer, any one of them could be a life changer. That's what makes this story so captivating. It's not just about luck. It's about awareness, knowing what to look for, paying attention when others don't. Imagine holding a penny, just 1 cent, and realizing it could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened to one man who spotted something strange about his old coin. It looked ordinary at first glance, but as he tilted it under the light, he noticed something was missing, something small, yet history-shaking. No mint mark. No tiny D. No S. Just the face of Abraham Lincoln staring back at him from a blank field under the date 1990. That small absence, that missing mark, turned an everyday coin into one of the most valuable pieces of American money ever discovered. Could a simple penny without a mint mark really be worth nearly $2 million? The answer, as shocking as it sounds, was yes. But the story of this mysterious penny doesn't start in someone's pocket. It begins deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, where billions of coins are struck each year. Most of them, let's be honest, are forgotten the moment they're spent. But occasionally, one slips through the cracks, a minting anomaly that rewrites coin history. In 1990, the U.S. Mint was producing pennies in 2 main locations, Denver and Philadelphia. Coins from Denver carried a tiny D beneath the date, while those from Philadelphia often carried no mint mark at all. So why did this particular penny stand out? Because it wasn't supposed to look like that. Here's where things get strange. During that time, the mint used special proof dies for collector sets. Proof coins made in San Francisco had an S, mint mark, struck with precision and mirror-like surfaces. Somehow, a proof die, mint for San Francisco, was used on a batch of Philadelphia planchets. The result? A small number of 1990 pennies with missing mint marks, but proof-like qualities. That tiny error transformed an everyday penny into a multi-million-dollar treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word of the discovery spread like wildfire. Coin dealers began scouring their inventories, flipping through proof sets, desperate to find another one. Collectors lined up at coin shows, holding magnifying glasses, inspecting every 1990 penny they could find. Some people even cracked open sealed U.S. Mint proof sets, hoping lightning would strike twice, and then more appeared. Just a handful, but enough to confirm the story was real. These were genuine 1990 no mint mark Lincoln cents, and they were worth a fortune. But what really made them so valuable wasn't just rarity. It was the emotion behind them, the thrill of discovery, the idea that something so small, so ordinary, could hold the power to change someone's life. One collector recalled nearly tossing his coin in with the rest of his change, only to notice something odd at the last second. "I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me," he said. "Then I realized what I was holding, and my heart stopped." This coin, authenticated and verified, eventually sold for close to $1.9 million at auction. A single penny, something most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the sidewalk, became the centerpiece of a bidding war that shocked experts and collectors alike. And here's the wild part. There are still more out there. Not many, but enough that the dream is alive. Somewhere, sitting unnoticed in a drawer, a roll, or an old jar of change, could be another one of these 1990 no mint mark Lincoln pennies waiting to be found. It's not just the missing mint mark, it's how flawlessly it was struck. Most circulation coins have small imperfections, weak strikes, faded details, tiny scratches. But these rare no mint mark proofs have crisp, mirror-like finishes. Lincoln's face looks almost three-dimensional, and the word Liberty appears sharp enough to cut glass. If you ever hold a 1990 penny, here's how you check. First, look right under the date. If you see a tiny D, it's from Denver, worth a penny. If you see nothing at all, don't panic. That's normal for Philadelphia coins. But if your penny has a mirror shine, almost like it's been polished, and no mint mark, it could be something extraordinary. Turn it under the light. Look for reflective fields, sharp details, and clean edges. Compare it to a regular penny. If it looks like it came straight from a collector's proof set, but there's no mint mark, you might have stumbled onto something incredible. But what happened next for collectors who found these coins? Their lives changed overnight. Coin forums buzzed with excitement. Dealers offered cash on the spot. And more than one person realized they'd been sitting on a life-changing treasure without knowing it. Point one story stands out. A retired teacher from Ohio found one while sorting through an old proof set she'd bought at a garage sale. She thought it was missing something and almost threw it away. But a quick search online revealed what she had. And within weeks, that mistake sold for enough to buy her a new home, debt-free. Stories like that are what keep collectors awake at night. Not greed, but the thrill of possibility. The idea that somewhere out there, a tiny copper coin could unlock a future of comfort, freedom, and security. And that's what makes this story so powerful. It reminds us that fortune doesn't always come in gold bars or stacks of cash. Sometimes it comes disguised as a penny, dull, dusty, and forgotten, until the right eyes spot its secret. Now, here's what most people don't realize. The value of these coins continues to rise. As more collectors chase perfection and rarity, the few remaining examples are skyrocketing in price. A verified 1990 no-mint mark penny can easily reach into the hundreds of thousands today, and the finest known specimens are inching closer and closer to the $2 million mark. Think about that, $2 million for one penny. It's the kind of story that makes you look twice at every coin in your pocket. But what if I told you there's another layer to this mystery? Some experts believe a few of these coins were struck on leftover planchets from previous years, creating subtle variations that haven't all been identified yet. That means new discoveries could still be waiting to surface. So every time you come across a 1990 penny, take a moment, examine it, study it, because one small detail, one missing mint mark, could make all the difference between pocket change and $1 million miracle. Collectors are still talking about it decades later. They call it the ghost penny, the invisible mark, the one that shouldn't exist, but does. And that's what makes it so hauntingly beautiful. Yes, you heard that right. A simple 1981 Lincoln penny with no mint mark turned out to be worth more than most people make in a lifetime. And the shocking part? It looked just like any other penny you might have in your pocket right now. It all started with a man from Pennsylvania who, like most of us, tossed his spare change into an old coffee can at the end of the day. Months later, while rolling coins to take to the bank, one penny caught his eye. It looked ordinary at first glance, dull brown, slightly worn, the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln staring ahead. But something about the shine on the rim felt different. He held it to the light, and that small moment changed his life forever. Collectors would later call it one of the most mysterious coins of the early 1980s, the 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Now, here's where things get strange. By 1981, the U.S. Mint was already transitioning from copper to a cheaper zinc composition. Mistakes were easy to make, and errors slipped through the cracks. Some 1981 pennies were struck on leftover copper planchets, while others showed subtle die doubling, faint minting lines, and strange polishing marks that shouldn't exist. But what really drives collectors crazy is that small missing detail, the mint mark. Every penny from Philadelphia before 2017 technically had no mint mark, but the 1981 issue hides something deeper. Experts believe a small batch of early 1981 pennies were struck with experimental dies, possibly leftover from the previous year, creating a rare blend of materials and striking characteristics unseen in most circulation coins. That man from Pennsylvania decided to list his penny online, thinking maybe it was worth a few bucks. Within hours, collectors flooded his inbox. Offers poured in from coin dealers, appraisers, even museum curators. When the coin finally hit the auction block, the bidding war was relentless. By the time the hammer dropped, his 1-cent coin had sold for just under $1 million. Imagine that. A penny, worth $1 million. The discovery sent shockwaves through the collector community. People rushed to dig through their old jars, coffee tins, and dresser drawers, hoping lightning might strike twice. Dealers started reevaluating 1981 pennies, testing them for composition and striking errors. And some found others, coins that shared the same strange combination of copper content, die markers, and faint doubled lettering on the obverse. First, check for the missing mint mark. It should simply say 1981 with no letter underneath the date. Next, observe the color and tone of the metal. If it's a deep reddish-brown and weighs about 3.11 grams, you might be holding an original copper penny. The switch to zinc happened in 1982, so some late 1981 strikes might show transitional errors. Those are worth a fortune, but the key lies in the details. Some of these million-dollar varieties show doubling on Lincoln's eye, his ear, or the letters Liberty and In God We Trust. Under magnification, the lines look doubled, almost like a shadow etched into metal. That doubling is a sign that the die shifted during striking, a minting error that turns an ordinary coin into a gold mine. Collectors were shocked to learn that some of these 1981 no-mint mark pennies were being bought for tens of thousands of dollars, even in worn condition. But those in mint state, perfectly preserved, have fetch prices reaching up to that million-dollar mark at major auctions. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Not all of these coins look the same. Some have slightly off-center strikes. Others have weak impressions or die cracks running through Lincoln's shoulder or the date. Each variation tells a story about that coin's journey through the minting process, a tiny accident in 1981 that today means a life-changing fortune. Why did only a handful survive? Some experts believe that during the transition from 95% copper to zinc, leftover copper blanks were mistakenly fed into the presses at the Philadelphia Mint. Others think experimental dies were being tested for the upcoming 1982 redesign. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain: these pennies were never meant to exist, and that's exactly why they're priceless. Dealers are still hunting for them. Coin shows across the country have seen collectors bringing bags of 1981 pennies, hoping to find the one with the telltale markers, a faint doubling on the obverse, a copper tone that gleams differently, or that elusive die crack that sets it apart. One collector from Ohio even shared his story of finding one in a roll he bought from a bank. He thought it was nothing special until his magnifier revealed doubling on the letters Trust. That penny sold for over $90,000. And that was just one of the lower-grade examples. Imagine what a flawless one could bring today. Think about how many pennies you've handed over, dropped in a tip jar, or left in a car cup holder. That single cent might be the key to your million-dollar moment. And the next time you see a 1981 penny, don't overlook it. Hold it up, study it, and remember this story. The 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of chance, of luck, of the idea that something so small, so ordinary, could hold unimaginable value. It reminds us that treasures aren't always buried deep or locked in vaults. Sometimes, they're right in your pocket. Collectors say that the thrill of the hunt never fades. Every time you find an older coin, you feel that spark, that rush of what if. What if this is the one? What if this is my million-dollar discovery? And the truth is, it could be. Check your 1981 pennies carefully. Look for that missing mint mark, the doubled details, the heavier copper weight, and any tiny flaws that don't belong. These are the clues that separate an ordinary cent from a collector's dream. A single 1982 Lincoln penny, something most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up off the ground, changed one man's life forever. And tonight, we're diving into the unbelievable story of how one tiny copper coin, barely worth a cent, became worth up to $1.1 million. It started like any other day. A coin collector in Colorado was sorting through his pocket change after work, the same way he had for years. But this time, one coin felt different. It had a slightly reddish hue, a strange weight to it, and a faint metallic tone when it hit the table. That moment, so small, so ordinary, would lead to one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history. You see, 1982 wasn't a normal year for the U.S. Mint. It was the year everything changed for the Lincoln penny. For over 70 years, pennies were made mostly of copper. But in 1982, because copper prices were skyrocketing, the Mint decided to switch to a cheaper metal, zinc, coated with a thin layer of copper. They didn't make the switch overnight. They did it gradually, creating both copper and zinc pennies in the same year. And somewhere during that transition, a few rare errors were born. The 1982 D. Lincoln penny, minted in Denver, was supposed to be made of zinc, but a small number were accidentally struck on copper planchets meant for earlier issues. That tiny mistake, barely visible to the naked eye, is what separates a penny worth 1 cent from one worth over $1 million. Collectors were stunned when the first one was found. It didn't seem real. A penny that weighed just 3.1 grams instead of 2.5? That slight difference was the key. The owner sent it for authentication, thinking maybe it was just a curiosity. But when the graders at PCGS confirmed it was a genuine 1982 D copper penny, jaws dropped. This wasn't supposed to exist. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. Experts called it a miracle mint error. And when it finally hit the auction block, it shocked the coin world. The final price? Over $1 million. A penny, just one penny, sold for a life-changing sum. But what happened next stunned everyone even more, because suddenly, everyone started checking their change. Reports flooded in from across the country, people digging through jars, coin rolls, even old coffee cans. Families who had saved pennies for decades were now weighing them, one by one. The hunt was on for another copper 1982 D penny. The mint never released how many might exist. Some experts believe only 1 or 2 examples slipped through. Others think there could be a handful more, hiding in collections or circulation, waiting to be discovered. It's the kind of mystery that keeps collectors awake at night. The idea that you could be holding $1 million coin without even knowing it. Imagine it. You're at a gas station, paying for coffee, and you hand over a few coins. The cashier gives you back a penny that feels just a little heavier than normal. It looks old, but not ancient. You toss it into your car's cup holder. Weeks later, you watch a video like this one, grab a small digital scale, and realize that penny weighs 3.1 grams. Your heart stops. You double-check. You check again. That's when it hits you. You might be holding the rare 1982 D copper penny worth $1.1 million. Collectors call it the accidental survivor. A coin that shouldn't exist, but somehow escaped the melting pots of the mint's transition year. And the story behind its survival is nothing short of incredible. During that hectic year, thousands of copper planchets were still lying around in mint bins when production switched to zinc. Workers were told to clear them out, but a few slipped through, getting stamped with the brand new 1982 D design. Nobody noticed. They were bagged, boxed, and shipped into circulation like any other coins. And for decades, no one knew. For years, people handled these pennies, spent them, lost them, and never realized they were holding a piece of numismatic history. But the few who paid attention, the ones who looked closely, became legends in the collecting community. One man from Arizona told reporters he found his 1982 D penny while cleaning out his late father's garage. It was sitting in a dusty jar labeled odds and ends. He sent it for grading, and months later, he was offered hundreds of thousands of dollars for it. He turned it down, believing it might fetch even more in the future. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The 1982 penny comes in multiple varieties: large date, small date, copper, zinc, Denver mint, Philadelphia mint, and only one specific combination is the jackpot. The 1982 D copper small date penny is the one collectors are hunting for. Now, here's how to know if you found one. First, grab a simple digital scale. Any cheap one will do. Place your penny on it. If it weighs about 2.5 grams, it's zinc and common. But if it hits that magical 3.1 grams, you could be looking at something extraordinary. Next, check the mint mark just below the date. You want to see a clear D. Then, look at the style of the numbers and the date itself. If the 2 is tall and the 8 looks balanced, that's your small date. Combine all of that, and you've got a coin that could be worth over $1 million. But what most people miss is that this coin doesn't look flashy. It won't sparkle or shine. It might even be dirty, tarnished, or worn. That's the irony. These life-changing treasures often look ordinary. And that's why they slip through so many hands unnoticed. Dealers who've handled these coins describe the experience as surreal. One veteran collector said, "It's like touching lightning. You know it shouldn't exist, but it's right there in your hand." That sense of awe is what keeps people in this hobby for decades. Because sometimes, one coin can rewrite history, and your future And if you think this is just a story from the past, think again. In recent years, the hunt for 1982 errors has exploded. Every new auction sparks fresh excitement, with collectors hoping the next million-dollar penny will emerge. Imagine how many of these coins might be sitting in coin jars, attics, or bank rolls across America right now. This is why collectors are obsessed with details. The difference between copper and zinc, the shape of a number, the curve of a mint mark, it all matters. That's what makes coin collecting both thrilling and maddening. It's not about luck, it's about knowledge, persistence, and a little bit of destiny to SO tonight. Before you go to bed, take a moment. Grab your old penny jar, the one collecting dust on a shelf. Pull out every 1982 penny you can find. Hold them up, weigh them, inspect them. You might just uncover a miracle hiding in plain sight. Collectors have waited decades for another confirmed 1982 D copper penny to appear. Maybe it's time for the next discovery. Maybe it's you.